You think you can just accuse me of cheating while I was away on business and demand a divorce? My husband Jackson bellowed through the phone. It should have been a jolting moment, but I knew better. This was just his attempt at stirring up drama. I already sold it, and you know what? I could practically feel his emotions quivering on the other end. Did he honestly believe I wouldn't see through his little charade? His naivety was almost comical as his accusations continued to ricochet off my resolve. I found myself teetering between anger and amusement. Yet amidst it all, a sense of empowerment began to emerge. This wasn't just a spat. This was a turning point. This was the moment I decided to take control. I chuckled inwardly at his feeble attempt to manipulate me. And then, as if the universe had aligned, a realization dawned on me. It was my turn to play. I'm Olivia, a 28-year-old working long hours. Though I held a steady job at a college store since I graduated from junior college at 20, Jackson's career trajectory has been less than stable. He's 2 years older, but when we first met 3 years ago, he was bouncing between jobs or sometimes doing nothing at all. He proposed to me hastily, but I set a condition. He needed to secure a stable job. I wasn't about to embark on a marriage without considering our future. Oh, okay, but there's a condition, I asserted firmly, watching Jackson's expression shift to one of concern. What is it? He asked cautiously. You need to find a stable job. Otherwise, marriage is out of the question. We need to think about our future. He attempted to brush it off with a casual remark. Oh, don't worry, you're working, so there's no rush, right? But my parents would be concerned if I married without a job. I'll find one before we tie the knot, he promised, sensing the seriousness in my tone. Reluctantly, Jackson embarked on his job search journey. Eventually, he secured an office position at a construction company, and we moved forward with our plans to wed. At the time, I saw Jackson as somewhat careless with money and work, but I believed our partnership could balance each other out. I thought I could guide him towards financial responsibility, and he would complement my strength. Little did I know, our challenges were just beginning. About a year into our marriage, as we were exploring the idea of buying a house, Jackson revealed a troubling obstacle. I might not qualify for a loan, he confessed casually. I was taken aback. What do you mean? I pressed for an explanation. Because I haven't been at my job long enough, I might need a guarantor for the loan. The only option would be my dad, but he's dealing with some serious gambling debts. He probably wouldn't be able to help. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? I was dumbfounded, especially with the contract and the real estate agent right in front of us. But Jackson, appearing unfazed, nonchalantly remarked, If we put the house in your name, it'll be fine, right? You've been at your job forever, so you can secure the loan. We'll both contribute to paying it off. It's just a formality. That's beside the point. Why didn't you bring this up before? This is significant for me too. I'm not even prepared with the paperwork. I retorted, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Though he offered an apology, his contrition felt superficial, lacking sincerity. Despite my urge to protest further, faced with the already arranged contract and the presence of the agent, I decided against escalating the situation. Reluctantly, I hastily gathered the necessary documents, such as my income statement, for the loan application and impulsively finalized the purchase under my name. Doubt gnawed at me. Could I truly envision a future with this man? Perhaps. I should have simply asserted, then we won't proceed, instead of hastily preparing the paperwork. My anxiety heightened with the looming issue of my in-laws. The other day, I had a conversation with Dad. Jackson began. He mentioned he might lose the house due to the debt I mentioned earlier, so he's considering moving in with us. Is that all right? What? Why would you even entertain that idea? I reacted swiftly, but Jackson merely shrugged it off. Well, he's facing difficulties. My brother is single, but he's working abroad. I'm the only one Dad can turn to. Should we seriously discuss this? Maybe he can stay temporarily until he finds a place. But committing to living with us permanently is a major decision, Jackson scowled. You just don't want him to stay because, to you, if he moves in, We can divide the living expenses. You're always going on about money, I countered. You mean the money you never contribute? You promised we'd split the mortgage, but it's only coming out of my paycheck. You haven't given your share. In marriage, finances are shared. It's not just your money, it's ours. It's deducted from your account because the house is in your name. Stop being so self-centered, I explained, frustration evident in my tone. But Jackson simply muttered, I hate discussing money, before storming out of the room. Such disputes became a regular occurrence. Every time Jackson would brush off my concerns and eventually retreat. No resolution was ever reached. However, Jackson wasn't entirely inactive regarding his family's predicament. As part of his role in construction site administration, he frequently dealt with real estate contracts. He often consulted a specific agency on how to secure the best price for selling his family's home and the necessary procedures involved. I overheard these discussions repeatedly, finding solace in the fact that I wasn't alone in contemplating this matter. Yet the prospect of my in-laws moving in with us post-sale, as if it were a foregone conclusion, continued to unsettle me. Jackson began attending meetings with real estate agents and my in-laws without involving me, and he started spending more weekends away from home. Eventually, he embarked on a lengthy business trip lasting several months, necessitated by the distance of the construction site he was overseeing. It wasn't apparent to me then, but the seeds of our power struggle had already been sown. A few days after Jackson departed for his trip, I decided to treat myself to tea after a shopping excursion. Hello, the man who greeted me seemed familiar, memories flooding back, recalling him as someone Jackson had once brought home. He worked at a real estate company, a young employee named Samuel. According to Jackson, Samuel had been with the company for less than a year. Ah, yes, I remember you. You visited our house before, right? I said. Yes, I apologize for dropping by unannounced and even joining for a meal. My apologies, Samuel replied. No need to worry. I should have been more welcoming, I said. We ended up sharing tea together. Samuel was affable and appeared more level-headed than Jackson, despite his youth. As we conversed over tea, we found common ground and eventually bid each other farewell. At that moment, I couldn't fathom that this brief encounter would later be twisted into an accusation of infidelity. Yet, that's precisely what happened when Jackson confronted me. You've been cheating on me while I was away, haven't you? We're getting a divorce. Give the house to my parents and leave immediately. Jackson's accusation hit me like a sledgehammer. In that moment, I couldn't help but wonder if the rumors were true. Jackson had evidently been spreading falsehoods, fabricating a narrative of my infidelity to justify his desire for divorce. And the bearer of this false tale was none other than Samuel, the man Jackson unjustly accused me of having an affair with. He showed up at my doorstep the day after our tea. I apologized for the sudden visit yesterday. Jackson asked me to reach out to you, Samuel confessed as he stood at my doorway. Shock and confusion washed over me, but I invited him inside, eager to hear his story. What he revealed left me stunned. Jackson had orchestrated a plan to frame me for infidelity, all in a bid to secure a divorce. Samuel was roped into fabricating evidence to support the scheme. There were two motives driving Jackson's deceitful agenda. Firstly, he coveted our house. Fearing the potential loss of his parents-in-law's property, Jackson saw cohabiting with his parents as the easiest solution. But my resistance to the idea led him to devise a plan to oust me and claim the property. Secondly, Jackson was involved in an affair of his own, spending weekends with his mistress while pretending to discuss matters with my parents-in-law. His infatuation with her led him to view me, his wife, as an impediment. By framing me for infidelity, he hoped to secure both the house and compensation in the divorce settlement. Despite my perception of Jackson's lack of astuteness, his cunning nature in orchestrating such a devious plan was truly despicable. As I muttered my disdain, Samuel offered his apologies. However, I had no intention of aiding Jackson in his malicious scheme. I feigned cooperation, all the while plotting to turn the tables on him. Samuel, leveraging his expertise in real estate, offered various suggestions. Eventually, he proposed a daring move: You should sell the house while Jackson is away on his trip. And so, when Jackson returned, bewildered by the news of the sale, I delivered the final blow. I know everything, Jackson. Samuel recorded everything, including your attempt to frame me for cheating with him. If we proceed with divorce, I can claim alimony and take you to court, I declared, relishing the shock that registered on Jackson's face. Why? Why? He stammered. But I wasn't finished. I had one last card to play. You might not have realized, but Samuel isn't just any new employee. He's the son of the company's CEO. I emphasized, incredulous at Jackson's obliviousness. Didn't you notice? Samuel shares the same last name as the CEO. How did that escape your notice? I pressed, my frustration mounting. Well, Samuel's last name isn't exactly uncommon. Jackson attempted to rationalize. Are you serious right now? I couldn't believe his lack of awareness. Yes, I'm serious, Jackson replied, his shock palpable. The realization dawned on him slowly. Samuel's company was one of Jackson's most crucial clients, and they had played a significant role in handling his family's property matters. If news of this deceit reached the CEO, Jackson would undoubtedly find himself in hot water. In fact, Samuel had likely already reported the situation. Look, fine, I'll check it out. But if you're lying, I'll figure it out, Jackson relented before abruptly ending the call. It didn't take long for him to realize the gravity of his actions. Subsequently, the real estate company owned by Samuel's father refused to engage in any business dealings with Jackson or offer him advice regarding his family property. With my house sold, Jackson had no option but to return to his family home following his business trip. Fortunately, Samuel had assisted me in finding an affordable apartment, so I encountered no difficulties as I initiated the divorce proceedings. Jackson persisted in reaching out to me. I'm sorry, Olivia. Please forgive me, he pleaded. It's too late for apologies now. You tried to manipulate me using someone else. Why should I believe anything you say? I countered. Don't say that. After our divorce, you can be with that other woman, right? That's what you wanted, isn't it? He suggested, attempting to deflect blame. Yeah, she had someone else she liked and dumped me. What a sorry tale. But just because of that, don't expect me to change my mind and come running back to you. I muttered as I ended the call with a heavy sigh. Despite not disclosing my current address to him in hopes of keeping him at bay, Jackson's incessant calls persisted. Each time he pleaded, please don't leave me. I'll change. I'll be a better husband. Yet I was weary of his hollow promises. Once the divorce is finalized, I'll delete his number, block him on WhatsApp, and sever ties completely. To make matters worse, even my mother-in-law reached out, begging, please, Olivia, we'll be lost without you. It's not me you wanted, it's the house, right? But there's no house left, I reminded her. It wasn't just about the house. We're not that heartless. Come back, and you'll understand, she implored. You wanted the money, didn't you? I shot back, frustration seeping into my voice. That's not true. You're being unfair. She attempted to coerce me into living with you. And when I refused, Jackson resorted to deceit to gain leverage in the divorce. I can't trust someone who resorts to such tactics, I asserted firmly. It's obvious you're only interested in money. I continued to rebuff their pleas. Then my father-in-law called, his tone dripping with arrogance. Isn't it your duty as a daughter-in-law to assist my wife a little? Are you seriously refusing? Isn't all of this a consequence of the debts you've accumulated? I countered, my resolve unwavering. In response, his voice on the phone grew so loud that it hurt my ears. You heartless woman, abandoning your mother-in-law in her time of need and shifting blame onto her. I'll teach you a lesson, you wicked woman. With that, I ended the call, shaken but determined. Armed with the recorded audio, I sought counsel from my lawyer. As it transpired, my father-in-law's words constituted a threat. Armed with this evidence, I informed Jackson that I'd pursue legal action if he didn't agree to the divorce. In a panic, Jackson reluctantly consented to the divorce. Finally, I was free from the clutches of that outrageous family. After the divorce, Jackson's reputation at work suffered, leading to a loss of trust and diminished responsibilities. Additionally, the unresolved debt forced him to sell his family home at a steep discount. Now he resides in a modest apartment with his parents, grappling with a reduced salary and the burden of supporting his family. To compound his challenges, he is obligated to pay me alimony. Learning about Jackson's struggles firsthand from Samuel, who remained a confidant, I discovered an opportunity to leverage my customer service skills from my previous role at a clothing store. Samuel, now working in the HR department of a real estate company, recommended me for a position that required strong communication abilities. After careful consideration and discussions with Samuel, I accepted the offer and transitioned to the real estate company. Throughout this transition, Samuel and I maintained our close bond, which eventually blossomed into a romantic relationship. After a year of dating, we tied the knot, and I became the spouse of the future company president. Jackson likely never envisioned that the two individuals he attempted to falsely accuse of infidelity would ultimately find love and marry each other. Now, surrounded by my supportive new family, including my in-laws, I look forward to building a beautiful life together with Samuel.
Hi, I'm Julie. You know that saying, when you marry someone, you marry their whole family? Well, let me tell you about the day my mother-in-law, Karen, decided to remind me who really ran my household. Life was good, me, my husband Mike, and our two kids, Jack and Emma, living in our cozy three-bedroom home. It wasn't huge, but it was ours. The kids shared the bigger upstairs bedroom, which they proudly decorated themselves. Emma's side adorned with unicorn wallpaper, Jack's with a space theme. For a 10 and 8-year-old, they were getting along surprisingly well. Then came that Sunday dinner. Karen showed up with her daughter Amy trailing behind like a shadow. The first red flag? Karen insisted on cooking instead of ordering our usual pizza. "Oh, sweetie, we need to discuss something as a family," Karen said in that saccharine tone that always made my teeth ache. I should have known. "Amy's having a rough time," she continued, patting Amy's hand like she was a delicate flower. "Third job this year," I muttered under my breath. "She needs a fresh start," Karen went on. "So I told her she could stay here for a while." I nearly choked on my meatloaf. "Here, Karen, we don't have a spare room." "Oh, that's no problem." Karen waved dismissively. "The kids can move to the basement. Amy needs a proper bedroom." The fork slipped from my hand. "Excuse me?" Mike started to say something, but Karen steamrolled him. "Michael, your sister needs help. Family helps family." Before I could fully grasp what was happening, Karen was already marching upstairs. We heard drawers opening and closet doors slamming. By the time I got there, she was tossing Jack's clothes into garbage bags. "Stop, you can't just move my children's things." I snapped. "Julie, don't be difficult," she replied without even looking at me. "The basement is fine. We'll set up dividers for privacy." Mike hovered uselessly in the doorway. "Mom, maybe we should discuss this." "There's nothing to discuss," Karen cut him off. "Amy needs support unless you're suggesting we throw her out on the street." And just like that, my husband deflated like a balloon with a slow leak. That night, Emma cried as her unicorn wallpaper was covered with Amy's vision board full of Pinterest quotes. Jack stood frozen, clutching his favorite space poster. As I lay in bed, listening to my kids trying to adjust to their cramped basement setup, I made a decision. Karen might think she'd won this battle, but she had no idea the war she'd just started. "Mike," I whispered, "you know this isn't right." "It's just temporary," he mumbled, rolling over. "Temporary," I repeated, bitterness coating the word. Like the last 3 times Amy needed temporary help. But this time was different. This time she'd messed with my kids. And nobody messes with my kids. 3 weeks. That's all it took for Amy to completely take over our house. It started with the bedroom, then the upstairs bathroom, then the kitchen. She treated the place like her personal bed and breakfast, with Karen as the overly involved manager. "Julie, Amy needs her protein smoothie before yoga," Karen chirped one morning. I glanced over at Amy lounging on my couch, scrolling her phone, while my kids tiptoed around their own home like unwelcome guests. Jack stopped inviting friends over, not that I blamed him. It's hard to host Nintendo tournaments in a basement that smelled like old gym socks. Emma's grades were slipping too. I can't sleep, she whispered one morning, dark circles under her eyes. The furnace growls all night, and the basement's too cold. She hesitated before adding, Jack keeps crying. But he doesn't want Daddy to know. That's when I started the Karen Chronicles, a detailed log of every incident, complete with evidence. Videos of Amy screaming at the kids for making noise during her meditation. Screenshots of Karen's texts demanding organic groceries for Amy's healing journey. Photos of my children's belongings shoved into corners to make room for Amy's essential oil diffuser collection. The breaking point came when I found Emma's favorite stuffed unicorn in the trash. It was cluttering up the hallway. Amy shrugged, not even looking up from her vision board. Isn't she too old for toys anyway? I marched straight to Karen, who was reorganizing my pantry without permission. This ends now. The kids moved back upstairs today. Don't be ridiculous, Karen snapped. Amy needs stability right now. Stability? What about my children's stability while your 40-year-old daughter plays spiritual guru in their bedroom? I'm 32, Amy shrieked from the living room. Julie, Karen's voice went icy. I don't like your attitude. Michael and I have already discussed this. Discussed what? Mike appeared in the doorway, and for once, his timing was perfect. Mom's been making decisions about our house again, I said, holding up Emma's rescued unicorn. Did you know Amy threw this away? It's just a toy, Karen began, but Mike cut her off. That was Emma's birthday gift from Grandpa Tom before he passed, he said, his voice suddenly firm. Something shifted in Mike's face. Mom, we need to talk about boundaries. Boundaries? Karen gasped, as though she never heard the word before. I'm trying to help your sister. I didn't raise you to be so selfish. No, Mike said quietly. You raised me to let you control everything. But this is my family too. My kids matter. Karen's face cycled through several shades of purple before she finally snapped. Well, I never. Amy, pack your things. We're leaving. But my yoga routine. Amy whined. Now. They stormed out, Karen swearing we'd regret our attitude. But watching the kids' faces light up when we told them they could move back upstairs, I knew the only thing I regretted was not standing up to her sooner. I'm sorry, Mike said that night, scrolling through my documented evidence. I didn't realize how bad it had gotten. It's not over, I warned him. You know your mother, she's just regrouping. He nodded, looking like the partner I'd needed all along. Then we'll be ready. The calm lasted exactly 2 days. This time, Karen came armed with blueprints and a contractor. Since you're so concerned about space, she announced, waltzing into our kitchen during breakfast, I found the perfect solution. We'll add an in-law suite over the garage. Amy can have her own entrance. Mike choked on his coffee. Mom, we can't afford. Oh, don't worry about money. Karen spread the plans across the table, over our breakfast dishes. I talked to Bob at the bank. You have plenty of equity to refinance. My stomach dropped. I'd seen Karen cornering Mike outside his office the other day. Now I knew why. Actually, I cut in. We've been talking to our financial advisor about the kids' college funds. No extra loans. Karen's eyes narrowed. Education is important, but family comes first. Amy needs to grow up. The new voice made us all jump. Tom, Mike's dad, stood in the doorway looking grimly amused. Karen, you're doing it again. I'd never seen Karen speechless before. It was beautiful. Tom, you can't just walk in, she sputtered. Like you do? He raised an eyebrow. Sit down, Karen. We need to talk about Amy's temporary stays with Jessica, David, Marie, and Steve, and why none of them speak to us anymore. 3 families, Karen, Tom continued, his voice weary. You've driven away 3 families with this routine. I'm protecting my daughter. You're crippling her, Tom shot back, and I won't let you destroy another family. After they left, Karen practically dragging Amy away from her plans for a meditation garden. I called my best friend, Sarah. Record everything, Sarah advised, her lawyer instincts kicking in. Tom's testimony, the refinance scheme, everything. If Karen tries anything legal, we'll be ready. That evening, Tom returned alone, bringing photos, text messages, and financial records exposing Karen's schemes. I should have stopped this years ago, he sighed. But Karen's very good at making you doubt yourself. Not anymore, I said. adding his evidence to my collection. We're ending this cycle. Together, we spent hours building an airtight case. Karen had been hiding Amy's trust fund, keeping her dependent, and had even submitted loan paperwork in Mike's name, thankfully flagged by the bank. When do we confront her? Mike asked, both scared and determined. Family dinner, Tom suggested. She won't expect it there. She always uses public settings to control reactions. Perfect, I said, thinking of the group text Karen had sent that morning, demanding we host Sunday dinner to discuss the renovation. Let's give her exactly what she wants, an audience. Sarah helped us prepare our presentation, and Tom rallied the extended family members Karen had burned before. Even our kids contributed, bravely agreeing to share how their basement exile had affected them. Sunday was coming. Karen thought she'd be pressuring us into her plans. Instead, she was walking into her own reckoning. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's letting someone build the stage for their own downfall. Sunday dinner started exactly as Karen had planned, except for the unexpected guests. She froze in the doorway, her eyes widening at the sight of Uncle David, Aunt Jessica, Cousin Marie, and her husband Steve, all seated in our living room. "What are they doing here?" she hissed at Mike. "Family meeting, right?" I said sweetly. "You always say family comes first." Tom stood beside the TV, where we'd set up our presentation. Karen's face went pale when she saw the renovation blueprints, not just hers, but 3 identical sets from other homes. "Before we discuss your plans," I began, "let's review some family history." The next 30 minutes were brutal. David described how Karen's temporary arrangement had cost them their savings. Jessica showed pictures of their gutted house, abandoned mid-renovation when they finally broke free. Marie's voice trembled as she detailed the refinancing scheme that nearly cost her family their home. "This ends now," Mike said, standing tall and facing his mother. "No more renovations. No more manipulating Amy's life. No more controlling our family." "How dare you?" Karen shrieked. "Everything I've done was for family." "Amy needs to hear the truth," Tom interjected, pulling out a folder of documents. "Tell her about the money, Karen, the account you've been managing since she was 18. Amy's head snapped up. "What money?" The room went silent as Tom explained. The inheritance from her grandmother. The trust fund that could have funded Amy's independence years ago. The account Karen had kept safe while pushing Amy from relative to relative. "Mom?" Amy's voice was barely a whisper. "Is this true? I wanted to protect you." Karen sobbed, her voice shaking. "To keep you close. To keep me dependent," Amy corrected, her expression hardening as she saw the pattern for the first time. "I'm 32 years old, Mom. Living in my niece and nephew's bedroom because you convinced me I couldn't survive on my own." Karen left our house for the last time that night, alone. Amy moved in with Tom, who helped her access her trust fund and find a therapist. Last I heard, she was taking coding classes and healing from years of engineered helplessness. The kids spent an entire weekend redecorating their room. Emma's unicorn collection grew with new additions from every family member who came to celebrate. Jack's space posters multiplied until they covered nearly every inch of the walls. The sound of their laughter upstairs was better than any revenge. Mike still struggles sometimes. Years of conditioning don't disappear overnight. But he's in therapy too, learning to recognize manipulation and stand firm against it. As for Karen, she's lost her power, her audience, and her ability to hurt anyone else. The family she wronged stay connected through a group chat, sharing updates and supporting one another. Sometimes the best revenge isn't something you do to someone. It's finally permanently stopping what they've been doing to everyone else. This story has ended, but it raises an important question. At what point should adult children be cut off from family support? Karen enabled Amy's dependence for over a decade. But where's the line between helping someone through hard times and creating harmful patterns of helplessness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this tale of family drama and justice served, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories exploring complex family dynamics. And remember, sometimes the hardest part of helping someone is knowing when to stop. Hi, I'm Margaret. You know that moment when your world shifts and you realize everything you believed was a lie? Mine came 3 years into my marriage, on the eve of a life-changing back surgery. I was sitting at the kitchen table when I saw it. The account balance, 0. At first, I thought it had to be a glitch. Just yesterday, our joint account held $48,000. Everything I'd saved, plus the proceeds from selling my car. All of it earmarked for my surgery and recovery. Let me back up. I met Mike at a friend's barbecue. He was perfect, or so I thought. A successful real estate agent with a dazzling smile and what seemed like a loving, close-knit family. His mother, Barbara, was intense right from the start. Always calling, always having emergencies that demanded Mike's attention. I chalked it up to a protective mom being lonely with her husband, George, always traveling. She just misses Dad, Mike would say. Then there was Kelly, his younger sister, who had never met a designer bag she didn't need immediately. The red flags were there, but I didn't see them, not back then. Barbara's constant hints about family helping family, the time Kelly needed $5,000 for a business opportunity that turned out to be a pyramid scheme, the way Mike would dodge conversations about finances. Family takes care of each other, they all parroted like a mantra. Funny how that care only ever flowed one way, their way. 3 weeks ago, I finally scheduled the surgery I'd needed since my accident. The pain had become unbearable, forcing me to leave my job as a physical therapist. After years of saving and with Mike promising to contribute, we had just enough for the surgery. Maybe you should wait, Barbara said at dinner last Sunday, her tone oozing false concern. She exchanged a knowing glance with Kelly. I brushed it off. Now, staring at the empty account, I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in my gut. I called Mike again, straight to voicemail, like the last 10 times. My hands shook as I scrolled through the texts I'd sent him. Then my phone buzzed. A new text. Mike, Mom needed the money. Family emergency. I'll explain later. Before I could even process that, another buzz. This time, a Facebook notification. Kelly's latest post. Shopping spree with Mom. Best day ever. The photo said it all. Barbara and Kelly grinning ear to ear, surrounded by Gucci and Prada shopping bags. The timestamp? 2 hours ago. I stared at the screen, my hospital bag packed and pre-surgery paperwork neatly stacked beside me. My chest tightened with a crushing realization. I didn't just have a back problem. I had a husband problem. A family problem. The next buzz was Anna, my best friend, bursting through my front door. One panicked phone call had her leaving her hospital shift early. What do you mean they emptied the account? She demanded, her voice rising as she read Mike's text over my shoulder. Family emergency. The only emergency here is your surgery tomorrow. While she fumed, my phone lit up with more texts from Mike. Mike, Mom really needs this. We can reschedule your surgery. You're being selfish. Family comes first. Selfish. My jaw clenched as Anna grabbed her iPad. Send me everything, she snapped. Texts, emails, bank statements, everything. Kelly's still posting live. Good. The idiots just handed us proof. She wasn't wrong. Kelly's Instagram story was a parade of excess. Designer bags, champagne glasses, Barbara beaming in front of a Mercedes dealership. The caption read, "New car for Mom. She deserves it." Then came the final blow. Barbara's text. Barbara, Margaret, honey, try to understand. Mike knows his priorities. I raised him right. A mother's needs come first. Your back isn't going anywhere. My back isn't going anywhere. Anna was already on the phone, her eyes blazing with fury. Sarah Bennett, Anna said, her voice firm. The best divorce lawyer in the state. She handled my sister's nightmare ex. Trust me, she'll destroy them. An hour later, I was sitting in Sarah's sleek office, watching her expression darken as she scrolled through the evidence Anna had meticulously organized. Financial abuse, premeditated theft, conspiracy, Sarah muttered, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the desk. Then she snorted, a cold, amused sound. And they documented everything on social media. They're not just stupid, they're criminally stupid. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mike. Mike, coming home soon. We need to talk about your attitude. Sarah's lips curled into a smile that was pure steel. Perfect, she said. Let's talk about attitude, shall we? But first, she pressed her intercom. Janet, call Judge Martinez. Emergency hearing. Domestic financial abuse. And get me Detective Torres. As she spoke, I felt something shift inside me. The pain in my back was still there, but something else was rising, something stronger than fear or heartbreak. "One more thing," Sarah added, pulling out a form and handing it to me. "Your surgery tomorrow. My brother's chief of surgery at Metro General. Unlike some people's family emergencies, this is actually urgent. Let's make sure you get the care you need first." Then she gestured at the growing pile of evidence. "After that, we'll take care of this family." Anna squeezed my hand as Sarah made call after call. Through the office window, I spotted Kelly's latest Instagram post, another shopping photo, captioned #BestDayEver. "Oh, honey," I whispered, my voice dripping with resolve. "Your day's just getting started." The hearing? Sarah's emergency hearing was a nuclear bomb in disguise. Judge Martinez took one look at my medical records. 3 years of documented pain, failed physical therapy, MRIs showing deteriorating discs, and his face turned stormy. "Your husband withdrew money intended for medically necessary surgery," he said, his voice like ice, "the day before the procedure." And that was just the beginning. Sarah's team had combed through bank records like hungry wolves. 5 separate withdrawals, Sarah explained. First Barbara, then Kelly, then George, then Mike. Coordinated. Planned. Timed specifically to drain the account before the surgery date. She paused, her gaze sweeping the courtroom. And this isn't the first time. The room fell silent as Sarah revealed bank statements going back 2 years. Secret loans, hidden withdrawals, and mysterious transfers, all funneling into Barbara's account. My surgical fund wasn't their first target. It was just their biggest grab. Detective Torres, seated in the gallery, stood up. "We found similar patterns with Barbara Davidson's previous daughter-in-law." My head snapped up. Previous daughter-in-law? Mike's first wife, Torres explained. She mysteriously abandoned him 5 years ago, right after her inheritance came in. Barbara claimed she ran off with another man. Reality? The money vanished into Davidson family accounts. She didn't abandon anyone. She was financially drained and fled. Anna squeezed my hand again, leaning in to whisper, "Good news. Dr. Crawford reviewed your case. The hospital's patient advocacy program is covering your surgery. It's scheduled for next week." I nodded, my focus shifting to Mike. His face was a study in panic, his eyes darting to Barbara like a puppet waiting for its strings to be pulled. But Barbara wasn't looking at him. She was too busy deleting her social media posts. Too late. Sarah's team had archived everything. "Your Honor," Sarah said, standing confidently, "we've also discovered that Mr. Davidson has been taking out loans against their house. Loans Mrs. Davidson never signed for, using her forged signature." The judge's gavel came down like thunder. "Enough. Detective Torres, I believe you have enough for criminal charges. Mrs. Davidson, your emergency protective order is granted. Mr. Davidson, surrender your assets, all of them." I caught Barbara's eye across the courtroom. For the first time, her perfectly made-up face showed cracks of fear. She hadn't expected this, any of it. She thought I'd be like the last one. Run away, disappear, let them win. But I wasn't going anywhere. My surgery was covered, my lawyer was a shark, and my best friend had my back. Their perfect little family scam was crumbling, and I was standing tall, ready to watch it collapse. 6 months after my surgery, I sat in the back of another courtroom, watching Mike accept his plea deal. 3 years for financial abuse and fraud. His real estate license, revoked. Barbara wasn't doing much better. After the charges against Mike went public, other victims came forward, 3 more former daughters-in-law, each with eerily similar stories. The Davidson family's carefully curated reputation was in ruins, their social standing in our small town shattered. The local news didn't hold back, airing yet another story about the Davidsons. Kelly's so-called fashion boutique, funded by stolen money, was closing its doors. George, tired of Barbara's schemes, had filed for divorce. And Barbara, she was drowning in civil suits filed by multiple families. I touched my back, tracing a scar that was now a symbol of my survival. The surgery had worked better than I could have hoped. After 6 months of proper physical therapy, I was almost ready to return to work. My new apartment might be smaller than the house I'd shared with Mike, but it was mine. Truly mine. "Here's to Margaret," Anna said, raising her glass with a proud smile. "Who didn't just survive, she thrived." I smiled, lifting my own glass. Before taking a sip, I checked my phone one last time. A text from Detective Torres popped up. Torres, Barbara's sentencing is set for next month. Kelly's filing for bankruptcy. Mike's appeal. Denied. I scrolled to the last photo in my gallery, a snapshot from that Sunday dinner, just before everything fell apart. There I was smiling nervously, surrounded by the Davidson family, a picture-perfect lie. With a swipe, I deleted it. My back was healing, my career was waiting, and my real family, the friends who stood by me, were right here. I looked around my apartment at the faces of the people who had supported me through the darkest time of my life. No manipulations, no schemes, no guilt trips disguised as family comes first, just genuine love and support. The pain in my back had faded to almost nothing, but the lessons I'd learned, those would stay with me forever. Sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you marry into, and sometimes hitting rock bottom gives you the foundation to build your best life. What would you do if you discovered your spouse had been secretly funneling your savings to their family for years? Would you pursue legal action like Margaret or try to handle it privately? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Every family situation is unique, but some lines can't be uncrossed. If you enjoyed Margaret's journey to justice, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. Your support helps us shine a light on stories like hers. Hi everyone, I'm Karen. Let me tell you the story of what happened with my ex-husband, James, and his ex-wife, Victoria. Buckle up, this one's a ride. It all began 3 years ago at the annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala. I was there representing my interior design firm, a business I poured a decade of hard work into building. While arranging the centerpieces, I bumped, quite literally, into James. He was tall, charming, and wearing a bow tie that was just slightly askew. "These tables look amazing," he said, adjusting his tie with a sheepish grin. "I'm on the hospital board, and I've never seen the gala look this elegant." We clicked instantly. James, a successful lawyer and divorcee, seemed genuinely captivated by my work. Our first date was the very next weekend, and before long, we were inseparable. "You're unlike anyone I've ever met," James would say, pulling me closer. "Victoria and I just grew apart, but with you, everything feels right." My sister, Sarah, wasn't so sure. "He talks about his ex a lot," she pointed out over coffee one day. "Are you sure he's moved on?" I brushed her off with a laugh. "You worry too much. They've been divorced for 2 years. It's ancient history." 18 months later, James proposed during a romantic weekend in the Hamptons. Everything about him seemed perfect, too perfect, in hindsight. We had a small, intimate wedding, though I couldn't ignore his brother Michael's odd behavior whenever Victoria's name came up at the reception. "It's just old family drama," James assured me. Michael and Victoria never got along. Life carried on. My best friend Amy threw us a housewarming party when we moved into our new home. While helping James unpack his office, she stumbled upon a box filled with old photos of him and Victoria. "Babe, why do you still have these?" I asked, feigning casualness. "Oh, I just haven't had time to sort through everything," he said, quickly shutting the box and stashing it away. 6 months into our marriage, I discovered I was pregnant. When I told James, he swept me off my feet, spinning me around in joy. But later that night, I overheard him on the phone. "No, I can't talk right now," he whispered in the backyard. "I'll call you back." When he came inside, I asked who he'd been talking to. "Just a client," he said, planting a kiss on my forehead. "You know how work gets." These small moments began to add up: the old photos, the hushed phone calls, the way he casually dropped Victoria's name in conversation. But I pushed my doubts aside. My life seemed picture perfect. A thriving career, a loving husband, and a baby on the way. Marriage is about trust, Emmy reminded me during one of our brunches, but it's also about instincts. "Are you sure everything's okay?" I forced a smile, resting a hand on my growing belly. "Everything's perfect," I said, even as unease gnawed at me. If only I'd listened to my gut. As my pregnancy progressed, Victoria started showing up everywhere. At first, it was coincidental, chance encounters at local coffee shops or community events. But then she seemed to be at every social gathering, always through mutual friends I didn't even know we had. "Victoria is just amazing with event planning," our neighbor gushed one afternoon. "She's organizing the most beautiful baby shower for you." I nearly choked on my tea. "I'm sorry, what? James didn't tell you?" He asked Victoria to plan everything. He said you'd be thrilled. That evening, I confronted James. Why would you let her plan my baby shower without even asking me? Honey, you've been so busy with work and the pregnancy, he said, trying to soothe me. Victoria offered, and she's really good at this sort of thing. Just give her a chance. The baby shower was a disaster. Victoria had commandeered my mother's house, turning it into something that looked like a Pinterest board gone horribly wrong. She played hostess, recounting stories about James that always seemed to revolve around their time together. Remember when we planned our future children's names? Victoria laughed, casually brushing James's arm. You always loved the name Victoria Jr. The room fell uncomfortably silent. My sister, Sarah, shot them a sharp glance, her eyes narrowing as she took in their interactions. James, could you help me in the kitchen? Victoria called out every 15 minutes, as if it were her party. Each time they returned, they seemed more animated, whispering private jokes and exchanging meaningful glances. Time for the thank you speech, Victoria announced near the end. James insisted you want to properly thank everyone, especially your wonderful planner. James gently but firmly nudged me toward the center of the room. Go on, honey. Tell everyone how grateful you are for Victoria's help. Humiliated, I stood in front of my family and friends, forcing a smile. Thank you, Victoria, for everything, I managed, holding back tears. The following week, Amy showed up at my office, her face pale and serious. Karen, I need to tell you something, she began. I've seen Victoria at James' office building 3 times this week. They were having lunch in his private office. Maybe it's about the shower, I suggested weakly, grasping at straws. The shower's over, Amy said flatly. Sarah called next. I've been going through your shared credit card statements like you asked, she said, her tone grim. There are charges for Tiffany's, high-end restaurants, and hotel bars. Places I know you've never been. Hotel bars? I asked, my voice trembling. The Waldorf, the Plaza, during business hours, when he claims he's in court, Sarah explained. James' excuses were growing more elaborate by the day. Late-night client meetings, weekend conferences, emergency consultations. One Friday, he announced he needed to fly to Boston for a case. That same evening, my doctor's office called. Mrs. Thompson, we need to reschedule your husband's genetic counseling appointment since he missed today's. What appointment? The one scheduled for 2 p.m. today. We called his office, but they said he was out of town. Panic set in. I checked his location using our shared phone plan. He wasn't in Boston, he was at the Plaza. That night, I lay in bed, 7 months pregnant, listening to James whisper on the phone in the backyard. Through the crack in the window, I heard him say, I miss you too. We'll figure something out. I promise. The life I thought was perfect was unraveling, thread by thread. Sarah and Amy came over while James was at another meeting. We spread documents across the dining room table, bank statements, phone records, anything we could find. Look at these email login attempts on your shared iPad, Amy said, pointing to the screen. They're to an account you don't know about. After some digging, we cracked into James' old email account. My hands shook as I scrolled through hundreds of messages between him and Victoria, dating back to the beginning of our relationship. I miss holding you at night, read one from just last week. Playing house with her is killing me, James had written. Just a little longer, baby. Once the baby comes, we'll figure out how to be together properly, Victoria had replied. My stomach lurched. Sarah gripped my hand. There's more, isn't there? Amy was already on the phone. Michael, we need to talk. Now. James's brother arrived an hour later, looking nervous. I handed him a cup of coffee. Tell me the truth, please. He cracked almost immediately. They never separated, Karen. The divorce papers were drawn up but never filed. It was all staged. Victoria's business was failing, and they needed your money, your connections. My what? Your client list, your reputation. James used your design firm's contacts to funnel money into Victoria's event planning business. They've been partners the whole time. Partners in what way? I whispered, my voice barely audible. Both ways. Business and, he hesitated. Everything else. They thought having a baby would give them access to your family's trust fund. The room spun. The constant phone calls, the secret meetings, the joint business lunches. It all made sense now. Over the next week, we gathered everything: documents, emails, recorded conversations. I played the role of the oblivious wife, all while building my case. "How's Victoria's business doing?" I'd ask James casually over dinner. "Oh, she's been busy, but her company's taking off," he'd reply, unaware I had proof he was bankrolling it. I installed cameras in our home office and watched him on split screen, whispering sweet nothings to Victoria while lying to my face. "The baby's kicking," I said one evening, guiding his hand to my belly. He smiled briefly, then checked his phone. "Victoria says hi," he said absently, freezing as the words left his mouth. I smiled, hiding the storm brewing inside me. "That's nice, honey. Tell her thanks again for the shower." They thought they were clever. They had no idea what was coming next. But they didn't realize they'd handed me everything I needed to destroy them both. By my 8th month, the plan was ready. I had transferred my personal assets to secure accounts, meticulously documented every fraudulent transaction, and hired a ruthless lawyer who specialized in takedowns. The day I left James, I did it with surgical precision. "I'm going to Sarah's for the weekend to rest," I told him sweetly, packing a small bag. He kissed my cheek, oblivious. Instead, I executed my plan. First, I sent an anonymous tip to his law firm's ethics board about client fund misappropriation. Then, I submitted evidence of Victoria's business fraud to the IRS. Mrs. Thompson, my lawyer, called later that day. "The forensic accountants found everything. They're going down." I was in the hospital when the follow-up began. Sarah and Amy held my hands as I brought my daughter, Emma, into the world. No James, no Victoria, just pure love and the start of a new chapter. Between contractions, Amy read updates aloud from her phone. "Your soon-to-be ex-husband's firm is conducting an internal investigation." A month later, Victoria's business imploded. Turns out she'd been cooking the books for years. James drained his accounts trying to save her, but it was too late. "Did you hear?" Sarah rushed in one morning. James lost his license to practice law. The firm uncovered decades of ethical violations. I focused on rebuilding. My design firm flourished. Turns out clients appreciate honest business practices. Meanwhile, I watched from afar as James and Victoria's house of cards crumbled. 3 years passed. Emma grew into a spirited, strong-willed toddler. We were celebrating her 3rd birthday when I got the text: "James has filed for bankruptcy." "Mommy, more cake." Emma squealed, her face covered in frosting. That's when James showed up uninvited. He looked terrible, no more expensive suits or slicked back hair. His voice trembled. "Karen, please. I've lost everything. Victoria's facing jail time for tax fraud. I was wrong. You and Emma are my real family." I glanced at Emma, happily playing with her Aunt Sarah, and then at Amy, who'd stood by me through everything. My business was thriving. My life was peaceful. "No, James," I said, my voice steady. "You didn't lose everything. You threw it away. The difference matters." "But I've changed," he pleaded. "Victoria's ruined me. I realize now." "Stop." I held up my hand. "You're not here because you love us. You're here because you lost your backup plan. The answer is no." "Karen, you can't keep my daughter from me," he tried one last time, desperation etched across his face. "Watch me," I replied. "And by the way, the DA has those recordings of you planning to steal my trust fund. Might want to lawyer up. Oh wait, you can't afford one anymore." I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, calling after me. His voice meant nothing now. Some call it karma. I call it justice. "Mommy." Emma called. "Aunt Amy's doing the butterfly dance." "Coming, sweetie," I said, scooping her into my arms. "Love you, Mommy," she whispered, wrapping her little arms around my neck. "Love you too, baby girl," I replied, holding her close. Looking at my daughter and my real family, I knew I'd won more than just justice. I'd won my freedom. They thought they could break me, but instead, I built something stronger from the pieces they left behind. Reflection. What would you do if you discovered your marriage was built on an elaborate lie? Would you confront the betrayal immediately or quietly gather evidence like I did? The scariest part of betrayal isn't the act itself. It's realizing how long you ignored the red flags. What warning signs stood out to you in my story? What patterns do you think people commonly overlook in their relationships? If you found this story compelling, please like and subscribe for more real-life accounts of overcoming betrayal and finding strength. Share your experiences in the comments. You might help someone recognize toxic patterns before it's too late. Remember, losing what we thought we had can lead us to something better, if we're brave enough to walk away. Hi, everyone. I'm Maria Mitchell, a 32-year-old dental hygienist who grew up in the foster care system. Today, I want to share how my mother-in-law and husband revealed their true colors. But first, let me tell you how it all began. You're doing amazing work with these patients, Maria, Jennifer said during our lunch break at the dental office. You should seriously think about opening your own clinic someday. That's actually my dream, I admitted, lowering my voice. Don't tell anyone, but I've been secretly saving up. Marcus doesn't know. He likes to handle all our finances. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. Girl, that's a red flag. Why can't you have your own money? It's not like that, I replied quickly, though her words stung. He just wants to make sure we're secure. Deep down, though, I wasn't so sure. Marcus, my husband of 3 years, had a knack for masking control as care. Whenever I brought up my career goals, he'd say, "Baby, why stress yourself? My business is doing great. Just focus on your hygienist work, and I'll take care of the rest." Then there was Barbara, my mother-in-law. She lived just 10 minutes away and never missed an opportunity to remind me of her generosity. Marcus tells me you want to open a clinic someday, sweetheart, she said one afternoon, her smile saccharine. That's so ambitious for someone with your background. You should be grateful my son provides such a comfortable life. Her words cut deeper than I let on. My only real solace came from Mrs. Rodriguez, my elderly neighbor. One evening, as we shared her homemade tamales, she noticed my troubled expression. "Maija, what's bothering you?" "Just mother-in-law drama, Mrs. R," I sighed. "Barbara found out I'm taking extra shifts, and—" "Let me guess. She told Marcus?" "Yeah. He asked why I needed more money when he gives me everything I need." That same week, I met David Chen, Marcus's business partner, at a company dinner. Something about the way Marcus stiffened when David mentioned finances caught my attention. "Maria, it's nice to finally meet you," David said warmly, though his expression betrayed concern. "Your husband talks about you constantly." "All good things, I hope," I replied, trying to read his face. "Of course," he said, hesitating. "Though I wish he'd mention you during our financial meetings." Barbara quickly cut in, her tone icy. "David, dear, let's not bore Maria with business talk. She's perfectly happy letting Marcus handle all that, aren't you, sweetheart?" I forced a smile, but inside, I was grateful for my secret savings account. Every extra shift, every bonus, $115,000 so far, was tucked away in what I called my escape fund. Jennifer noticed me checking the account balance at work the next day. "Keep stashing that money, girl. Something about your husband and his mama doesn't sit right with me. Just be careful, okay?" I nodded, not realizing how right she was or how soon my world would shatter. The day everything fell apart started like any other. I was organizing files in my home office when Barbara's voice startled me. Well, what do we have here?" I turned to see her holding a bank statement I had hidden in my desk. $115,000, she sneered. "Does Marcus know about this?" "That's private," I snapped, my voice trembling. "How dare you go through my things?" "Private?" she scoffed. "Nothing's private when it comes to my son's money. Let's discuss this in the kitchen." My hands shook as I followed her. She moved deliberately, putting on water for tea. "You ungrateful little gold digger," she hissed. "All these years pretending to be the perfect wife. That's my son's money." "I earned it," I shot back. "Working extra shifts. It's my money." "Oh, so you've been lying to Marcus too." The kettle whistled, shrill and piercing. Barbara grabbed it, stepping closer. "You're going to tell Marcus everything, or I will." "Go ahead," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I have nothing to hide." It happened in an instant. The kettle tipped, and scalding water splashed across my arm. "Oh my!" Barbara gasped, her voice dripping with mock concern. "I'm so sorry." I tripped, and my scream brought Marcus running. The pain was excruciating, but what hurt worse was his reaction. "Mom, what happened?" he demanded. "Your wife attacked me." Barbara cried, clutching her pearls in mock horror. I was just making tea and she lunged at me. What? That's insane. I protested. She deliberately. Enough, Marcus snapped, cutting me off. Mom, get some ice. Maria, how could you? Later that night, my phone buzzed with a text from David Chen. Need to talk. Company finances, Marcus involved. Urgent. We met at a coffee shop the next morning. My arm throbbed beneath its bandage as David got straight to the point. Your husband's been embezzling funds, he said grimly, and his mother is helping launder the money through her charitable foundation. I felt the floor drop beneath me. How long have you known? I just got proof, he replied. I'm taking it to the board next week. Maria, you need to get out now. Jennifer helped me document my burns at the hospital. This is assault, she said firmly. You need to press charges. I can't, not yet, I said. I need to be smart about this. That's when David's sister, Lisa, walked in. Her sharp suit and commanding presence immediately filled the room. David told me everything, she said briskly. I'm a lawyer. We need to talk strategy. Back home, I started recording everything. Barbara's daily visits became a minefield of threats. I've destroyed better women than you, she sneered one morning. Ask Marcus's ex-girlfriends. Marcus wasn't much better. Where were you today? He asked one evening, his tone accusing. At work, like always, I replied, keeping my voice calm. Mom says you're plotting something. Don't test me, Maria. I plugged in my hidden recorder, catching every word. Those burns were your fault, he growled. You're lucky Mom didn't press charges. Jennifer was my lifeline during lunch breaks. I found you a safe apartment, she said, sliding me a key. 3 months deposit paid. I can't let you. Shut up and take the help, she snapped. Lisa's got your legal stuff covered. We're getting you out. That night, I stared at my burned arm in the mirror, and everything became crystal clear. The controlling behavior, the gaslighting, the accidents, it was all connected. Barbara hadn't stumbled upon my savings, she'd been searching for ammunition. And Marcus, he wasn't just complicit. He was worse than his mother. I sent everything to Lisa, bank statements, recordings, photos of my burns, documentation of Marcus's growing financial control over the years. Her response was immediate. Got everything. Building your case, stay safe, and act normal. 2 more weeks, max. Those 2 weeks felt like an eternity. The pieces of Marcus and Barbara's dark past started falling into place when Lisa arranged a meeting with Amanda, Marcus's ex-girlfriend. I can't believe she's still pulling the same tricks, Amanda said over coffee. The accidental burns. She did that to me, with hot coffee. How did you get away? I asked. I ran before the wedding, Amanda admitted. Lost my job, my apartment, but I saved my life. Barbara told everyone I was unstable. And Marcus. He always sided with Mommy Dearest. But it started small, financial control, subtle manipulation. Then I found documents about missing company money. Lisa arrived with a stack of files. 3 other women have come forward, she said, her tone grim. All former daughters-in-law, all with similar stories. One was hospitalized. Jesus, I whispered. How did they keep this quiet? Money and threats, Lisa said. Barbara's foundation paid them off. But here's the kicker. The foundation's books don't add up. That night, Barbara showed up uninvited, as usual. That arm healing well? She asked, her voice saccharine. Such a shame about your accident. We both know what really happened. Careful, Maria. Memory can be tricky when you're unstable. Mrs. Rodriguez was outside watering her plants when Barbara's nastiness reached its peak. You'll end up like the others, broke, alone, crazy. Who believe a foster kid over us? Later, Mrs. Rodriguez knocked on my door with tea. I heard everything, Maija, she said softly. I'm recording them too now. My security cameras don't miss much. Jennifer helped me secure my savings, transferring small amounts under $10,000 to avoid detection. Let Marcus think you're still working extra shifts, she said. The money's safe now. David called an emergency meeting at his office. The board meets next week, he said. I've got proof of everything. Embezzlement, foundation fraud, all of it. What about Barbara? I asked. She's the key, David said. The foundation is her weak spot. Once that falls, the rest will collapse. Back home, Marcus's paranoia was escalating. Mom says you've been asking questions about the foundation, he said sharply. Just trying to help with the charity work. I replied evenly. Stay out of it. And what's this about you talking to Amanda? Amanda? I asked, feigning confusion. Your ex? I don't even know her. His face darkened. You're spying on me. No, I said calmly. You just messed up your own story. Barbara stormed in later that night. You think you're smart, playing detective. I learned from the best, Barbara, I said, my voice cold. How many daughters-in-law before me? You ungrateful little. Mrs. Rodriguez's voice cut through the tension from the doorway. Everything okay here? She asked, her tone sharp. My cameras picked up some shouting. Barbara's face turned ghostly pale. She knew she'd been caught. The next morning, I met Lisa. Everything's ready, she said, sliding a folder across the table. The board meeting is tomorrow. David has all the evidence. What about my recordings? I asked. Safe, Lisa assured me. We're building a separate case for the abuse, but the financial crimes? That's our silver bullet. That night, I overheard Marcus on the phone with Barbara. She knows something, he hissed. No, I can't just make her disappear. The board meeting. David wouldn't dare. He paused, his tone growing darker. Fine, I'll handle it. I texted Jennifer. It's happening tomorrow. Her response came immediately. Your apartment's ready. Go pack. Looking at her wedding photo, I felt nothing but disgust. Tomorrow their perfect little world would shatter, and I'd be gone before the pieces hit the ground. The next morning, I watched Marcus leave for work, pretending everything was normal. As soon as his car disappeared around the corner, I sprang into action. Jennifer texted, everything's set at the new place. Within an hour, my essential belongings were packed. Mrs. Rodriguez hugged me goodbye. Your moving truck just left, Maija, she said with a smile. Barbara's watching from her window. Perfect timing, I replied. The board meeting starts in 30 minutes. By the time the chaos erupted, I was already in my new apartment. Jennifer called with updates. David just dropped the bomb. FBI agents walked in during the meeting. You should see Marcus's face on the security feed. What about Barbara? I asked. She showed up screaming and made it worse. They're both being questioned now. The headlines came fast. Local business owner and mother arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. But the real satisfaction came from the follow-up stories exposing their history of abuse. 6 months later, my clinic opened its doors. Jennifer ran the front office like a pro. Next patient, she said one afternoon, handing me a chart. Another foster kid, she added. Dental school scholarship. Send them to my office first, I replied. I want to talk to them about our mentorship program. The karma was sweet. Marcus got 7 years in federal prison. Barbara's foundation collapsed, her reputation ruined. Her country club friends pretended not to know her, and legal fees devoured her savings. Then came Marcus's letter from prison. Maria, I'm so sorry. I see now what Mom and I did was wrong. Please give me another chance. I dropped it into the shredder without finishing. Mrs. Rodriguez visits often, bringing her famous tamales for the staff. Look at you now, Maija, she said one day. From hiding money to helping others hide from abuse. Lisa still handles our legal work pro bono. Another domestic violence survivor needs dental work, she said during a recent visit. Can you fit her in? There's always room for one more, I replied. This is what victory looks like, not just surviving, but thriving. And the best part, I did it without letting hate consume me. I let justice do its job while I built my dreams. No forgiveness needed. My success is the only closure I need. What about you? What would you have done in my shoes? Stay quiet about Marcus's financial crimes to protect yourself from Barbara's wrath, or expose everything knowing it could get dangerous? Hi, everyone. My name is Lena. I'm 28 years old and a graphic designer. This is the story of how my perfect romance unraveled into a nightmare. It all began last spring at the Tech Vision conference in Chicago. I was presenting my design portfolio, showcasing my unique fusion of traditional art and digital media. That's when I noticed him, a tall, charming man in the audience who seemed captivated by my work. After the session, he approached me, his blue eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Your work is incredible, he said. The way you blend traditional and digital techniques is unlike anything I've ever seen. That was James. My heart fluttered as we exchanged numbers, and by the following week, we were meeting for morning coffee dates before work. James was everything I thought I wanted: successful, attentive, and so understanding. "You're different from anyone I've ever met," he'd say, and I believed him. 3 months into our relationship, James introduced me to his family. His sister, Sarah, was intense, to say the least. "James tells me everything about you," she said, her piercing gaze making me feel like a specimen under a microscope. Her husband, Mike, was quieter, simply nodding along to whatever Sarah said. "We're incredibly close," James explained. "Sarah practically raised me after our dad passed away." Then there was Barbara, their mother, who had an unsettling habit of comparing me to James' ex-girlfriends. "You're much more suitable than the others," she'd remark, her tone making it clear that I was being evaluated. My best friend, Diane, noticed red flags before I did. "Don't you think it's strange how he checks your location so often?" she asked over coffee one day. "He's just protective," I replied, brushing off her concerns. "He worries about me." But things took a darker turn as time went on. James proposed after a year of dating, and the wedding, well, it was everything Sarah wanted it to be. Looking back, I realize now how much control she had over every detail of our lives. "We should live closer to Sarah," James suggested shortly after the honeymoon. "She knows all the best neighborhoods and schools." Even when I planned a simple dinner with Diane, James would find a way to dissuade me. "Baby, you've been so tired lately. Why don't we just stay in? Besides, Sarah's coming over." Then came the news that changed everything. I was pregnant. Overwhelmed with joy, I took 3 tests just to be sure. James seemed thrilled, but Sarah's reaction was off. "You need to be extremely careful," she said, gripping my arm a little too tightly. "Our family has a history of complicated pregnancies. Dr. Thompson will oversee everything to make sure it goes smoothly." Dr. Thompson, the family doctor, had always been unnervingly close to Sarah. I'd even caught them holding hands once when they thought no one was looking. But I was too excited about the baby to dwell on it, too blind to notice the exchanged glances or how James' reassuring words felt hollow. "We'll take really good care of you," James said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "You won't have to worry about a thing." Things spiraled further when Sarah received devastating news: she was infertile. I overheard her crying in the kitchen one morning, confiding in Dr. Thompson. "It's not fair," she sobbed. "I'll never have my own baby." After that, Sarah became obsessed with my pregnancy. She'd show up unannounced, placing her hands on my belly without asking. "This baby will be so special to our family," she'd whisper with an unsettling intensity. James's behavior shifted too. One morning, he took my phone while I was in the shower. "The radiation isn't good for the baby," he said when I protested. "Dr. Thompson agrees. We'll get you a landline instead." Then came my work. "Honey, about your job," James began cautiously. "Dr. Thompson thinks the stress could harm the baby. You don't need to work. We can afford for you to stay home." Bit by bit, my world grew smaller, until I could barely recognize the life I once had. If only I had realized sooner what they meant by taking care of me. "But I love my job," I argued. "I need to talk to Diane about all this." James's face darkened. "Diane doesn't understand our family dynamics. Besides, Dr. Thompson strongly recommends limiting outside contact to prevent infections." Dr. Thompson backed him up, as always, with medical jargon I couldn't refute. "Your pregnancy is extremely delicate," he explained during one of his home visits. "Complete bed rest and isolation are necessary." Sarah, of course, stepped in to help. She took over everything, spending hours in the nursery. "The crib should face east for better energy," she declared one day. When I disagreed, she snapped, "I've researched this extensively. I know what's best." Barbara chimed in during her frequent visits, always praising their controlling behavior. "You're so blessed to have such a devoted family," she cooed. When I was pregnant, I had to do everything myself. But something was wrong. After taking my prenatal vitamins, I started feeling strange, exhausted all the time. "Why am I so sleepy?" I asked during a checkup. "Perfectly normal," Dr. Thompson assured me. "Pregnancy affects everyone differently." Then, one morning, I overheard a whispered conversation between Sarah and James outside my bedroom door. The nursery at my house is almost ready, Sarah said softly. Are you sure about this? James sounded hesitant. It's for the best. She's clearly not stable enough to handle motherhood. My blood ran cold. I felt trapped in my own home. Security cameras appeared for my safety. The windows were child-locked to prevent accidents. Even my food was strictly monitored. Everything must be organic and prepared properly, Sarah insisted, throwing away snacks I'd hidden. When I tried to make a call on the landline, I discovered it was rigged to connect only to family. See how much we care about you, Barbara said smugly. Most women would kill for this kind of attention. The drowsiness worsened. Sometimes, I'd wake up without remembering falling asleep, only to find Sarah hovering over me, measuring my belly or rummaging through my belongings. Just checking on my favorite sister-in-law, she'd say with a saccharine smile. I knew something was terribly wrong, but in my drugged state, I could barely think straight. I needed help, but who could I trust when my entire world had become a carefully constructed prison? Then, during one of Sarah's obsessive cleaning sessions, she got called away for an emergency at work. In her haste, she left behind her designer bag, something she always kept close. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, I found a leather-bound diary. What I read made my blood turn to ice. Plan is proceeding perfectly. One entry read, James agrees it's best for everyone. After the birth, will prove she's unstable. Dr. T will testify about her paranoid behavior and depression. The baby will be safer with me. Another entry detailed fabricated symptoms, dates, and even photos of a psychiatric facility they had already chosen. Met with Dr. Thompson today. He'll adjust her medical records to show a history of mental instability. Cost us a pretty penny, but worth it. He's always had a soft spot for me. The sound of a car pulling up jolted me. I quickly returned the diary and rushed back to bed. Moments later, Sarah burst in, her smile as fake as ever. Sorry about that emergency. Now, where were we with the nursery plans? I pretended everything was normal, even as my world crumbled around me. The next day, during Barbara's usual 15-minute bathroom break, I heard a faint tap at my window. Diane? I whispered, barely believing my eyes. She slipped inside. I've been watching the house for weeks, she said. I knew something was wrong when you stopped answering calls. Diane had brought a burner phone and tiny cameras. We need proof, she said, planting them around the house, especially in the kitchen where my food and vitamins were prepared. That night, the cameras captured James crushing pills into my prenatal vitamins while Sarah supervised. Mom's got the paperwork ready, James said. After the birth, everything needs to move quickly. Dr. Thompson says we can claim postpartum psychosis, Sarah replied. No one will question it. Through the burner phone, Diane helped me gather more evidence. We recorded conversations, documented my confinement, and photographed the tampered vitamins. They're using benzodiazepines, Diane revealed after sneaking a sample to her pharmacist friend. That's why you're always drowsy. The deeper we dug, the darker it got. Barbara had been feeding my family lies, telling them I needed space during a difficult pregnancy. But now I had a lifeline, and with Diane by my side, I vowed to expose the truth and reclaim my life, no matter the cost. Dr. Thompson had an entire file of falsified medical records prepared. Even Mike, Sarah's husband, was in on it. There were texts about him drafting the legal documents for my institutionalization. We need to get you out, Diane said during another secret visit. But we have to be smart about it. They're all in on this. Sarah, James, your mother-in-law, even the doctor. I rubbed my growing belly, feeling the baby kick. They want to steal my baby, I whispered. My own husband. How could he do this? Don't worry. Diane squeezed my hand, her voice firm. I've got a plan, but we'll only get one shot at this. We waited until their weekly family breakfast, an hours-long tradition at Sarah's house where they gathered to discuss their sinister plans for my baby. The irony wasn't lost on me as Diane whispered, They're all there. The security camera confirms it. Let's move. My hands trembled as we drove to Mount Sinai Hospital. The new doctors were horrified by my test results. These drug levels, the emergency physician said, shaking his head as he documented everything. Someone has been systematically sedating you. This is criminal. I called Anna, my old college roommate turned investigative journalist. When she saw the evidence, she said, This is bigger than a family dispute. This is a scandal. The story broke like a tsunami. The headline read, Prominent Doctor and Family's Sinister Plot to Steal Unborn Child. National news stations picked it up, but that was just the beginning. Mrs. Anderson, we need to talk about your husband's financial activities, a corporate investigator told me at the safe house. It turned out James had been embezzling company funds for years, funneling money into Sarah's endless IVF treatments. He's stolen nearly $500,000, the investigator explained. We're pressing charges. Sarah's world imploded next. Her fraudulent insurance claims for non-existent fertility treatments came to light. During her very public divorce proceedings, she screamed at Mike, I did it for us. Everything I did was to give us a family. The day Dr. Thompson was arrested, my water broke. Diane stayed by my side through 16 grueling hours of labor. It's a girl, the doctor announced, placing her in my arms. Hello, Emma, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. You're safe now. The sentencing hearings followed. James received 12 years for embezzlement, conspiracy, and attempted kidnapping. Dr. Thompson lost his medical license and was sentenced to 8 years. Sarah received 5 years for insurance fraud and conspiracy. During the final hearing, I addressed the court. They tried to steal not just my baby, but my sanity and my life. Sometimes the best revenge isn't watching your enemies fall. It's rising so far above them that their schemes seem small and pathetic in comparison. Today, Emma and I are thriving. She's proof that love doesn't need control or manipulation, it just needs to be real. But I often wonder, what would you do if you discovered your spouse and their entire family were secretly drugging you and plotting to steal your child? Would you expose them immediately, risking that they destroy the evidence, or would you gather proof first, even if it meant enduring more abuse?